iOS 9 just got announced, and there's some features in there that people aren't talking about that we think are pretty cool. Hey everybody, Dave Geisler here. This is the Technophiles Newscast, and last week iOS 9 was announced at Apple's WWDC 2015. Before we really dive in here, I thought it was kind of interesting how back in episode 77 of this very newscast, Tony Stiglitz talked about Android M kind of copying a lot of things that were happening in iOS. I found that fairly relevant because it seems like it's iOS's turn to take a lot of things from Android. Of course, the features that everyone's talking about, like multitasking, better Siri, better maps, is basically playing catch up to Android. There are some cool features that we found that weren't really talked about, and we'd like to talk about them. So we did some digging. We actually found a lot of weird little features that we think are kind of cool in iOS 9. I'm gonna do some features here on Monday, and then I'll come back on Wednesday and probably talk about mostly HomeKit, to be honest. So here we go. I'm just gonna hit some of the quick little things right off the bat, and then we'll dig a little deeper. For starters, iOS 9 is going to be using a new font. It's the font that actually was used on the Apple Watch. This is interesting because Apple only switched fonts 2 operating systems ago. It was a version of Helvetica Light, and now they're going to this new one. Apple has actually also redesigned the aesthetics of Siri on the iPhone so that it looks more like how Siri operates on the Apple Watch. So they're just doing these little tweaks to make the watch and the phones and the pads all look the same. Another quick little detail, which is actually literally little, and it seems obvious, is that they'll be including lowercase characters on their keyboard, which it seems a little weird to think of now, but they actually didn't do that before. I'm being totally honest here. I know there's been times where I've accidentally typed capitals instead of lowercase and whatever. Okay, next. iOS 9 is going to include a native iCloud Drive app. And you know, we use Google Drive here for the podcast and the newscast to share all our files and notes, and we love it, and it looks like iCloud Drive is going to go in that direction as well. Another quick little detail, the iPad, when it's in landscape mode and you pull down your notification shade, it's actually going to have a 2-column user interface, which is nice. It's a nice little touch. I think it's going to have a calendar on one side and then your typical notifications on the other. HealthKit actually is going to have 4 or 5 new data endpoints, all based on reproductive health, which is totally cool. Here's a feature that I'm personally very excited about. I actually do use a Bluetooth keyboard when I'm on my iPad, and I love it. There's a lot of extra functions that you can use that aren't on the normal digital keyboard. Apple has included even more. One of these features is using the Command Tab short key to app switch, which is going to be super great. Apple has also allowed developers to access the Command, Control, and Option keys now as well for their own apps. Next, we have a feature that I think a lot of people may not be thinking about, but I think it's a very big deal. And it's actually about a very small thing. The iOS 9 install file is only going to be like 1.9 gigabytes compared to the iOS 8 install file, which was like 4.6 gigabytes. I understand that Apple actually had the slowest adoption rate with iOS 8 because the file size was so big and people's phones were just so full of photos and music and whatnot. Sounds like they were really aggressive to make sure that the iOS 9 file would be very small. Speaking of updating your phone, Apple has also included a couple features that they normally have on OS X. They are going to allow people to install iOS 9 automatically overnight. So let's say you're sleeping and your phone is just laying there, it's in sleep mode, and it's going to take 45 minutes or half an hour or an hour to download the file. It'll restart itself. It'll actually set up its own save states for any apps that are running, restart itself, and boot right back up and you won't even notice. Okay, the final feature that I want to talk about for today was actually buried pretty deep. Of course, you know at WWDC, it's not just one big keynote. There's a lot of sessions to help developers learn new languages. And apparently at one of the Cocoa sessions, Apple actually talked about predictive touch. Predictive touch is kind of a big deal. Put simply, it's really just software that predicts where you'll press next, if you're moving your finger across the screen, where that finger is going to be headed. A lot of this technology is already used in tablets for PCs and things like that right now. Some people think that they're bringing it to iOS 9 because this is hinting towards a stylus being included with an iPad Pro maybe next year. I don't know, that stuff's kind of still rumor, even though it does lean in that direction. Still, in the meantime, it means quicker and more accurate presses, which is kind of important. Okay, so those are some features that we thought were pretty interesting. I'll be back on Wednesday to talk about HomeKit. We learned a lot about HomeKit, and frankly, I'm very excited to tell you about it. So I'll see you then on our part 2. In the meantime, you can leave some comments down below on features that you found that maybe we didn't talk about that you think are cool. Otherwise, tweet us at TechnopilesPod or go to Facebook, find us by searching Technophiles on iTunes, go to our actual website, technophilespodcast.com, to check out this show and our actual podcast, the Technophiles Podcast. Boy, this outro's starting to get a little wordy, but I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Okay guys, hope you liked the video. Remember, come back on Wednesday for the second half. We're going to talk about things like Apple Watch integrating with HomeKit, HomeKit in the iCloud, a lot of cool, weird little things. In the meantime, you can check out V right here and V right here, Video Game V over here, and subscribe down here in the meantime. We'll see you on Wednesday.